Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I am making for BranSi0730 ZHANG, their custom monthly music review. We're going to be checking out Frank Sinatra's My Way, the live performance, and if we switch over to here, we actually have it on YouTube. I haven't watched Frank do this live. He was just a little bit before my time. This is his performance at Madison Square Garden, New York City, 1974, but it's the 2019 edit, so I guess it's been maybe visually or audio like remastered. Like it's the version for 2019 apparently. So it'll be good to check it out. We're gonna listen through this track from start to finish, and we're gonna hear what we think. Let's go.
We will now do the national anthem, but you needn't rise.
The stage presence immediately from this gentleman, incredible. And he's older at this point in time, but his voice still sounds so timeless. Oh, the crowd, dude.
The final curtain, my friend. I'll make it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain.
I love the accompaniment behind him. It's like this cute little piano line, a very gentle sort of piano line we got going on here. Great dynamic range to the production.
Traveled each and every highway, more than this, I did it my way.
My man.
Regrets, I've had a few.
It's such a gentle performance, like he's actually singing to you directly. It's a conversation with the audience. Notice how the crowd is quiet? That's a real show, man.
But then again, too few to mention, I did.
Oh, nice bit of activity in that bass line though. Did you hear that? And the strings coming in as well. That live section is stunning, dude.
What I had to do, I saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway.
Like his voice is cracking a little bit, but that's just age. And it doesn't detract from the performance. He's such a good singer. He knows exactly where his range is. And honestly, if you think about it, My Way, he's talking about the way he's lived as he's getting older. This is probably a pretty heavy song for him too. This is a very heavy performance for a lot of different reasons.
And more, much more than this, I did it my way. Yes, there were times.
There we go, that uplifting brass section.
When I bit off more than I could chew.
The way he points as well. There's just these little things he's doing here which elevate it beyond simply just a man on stage with a mic.
And with it all, when there was doubt, I ate it up, then spit it out.
Hey, the power.
Through it all, and did it my way.
And that going down for that section there. You know that last chorus is going to be huge because of the dynamic range and the change in energy levels throughout the performance. There is no attempt to keep everything the same perceived loudness. This is what I appreciate about production in the 20th century as compared to now. There's almost this need for everything to be the same loudness, because a lot of people don't listen to it actively. Like, they don't just sit there and listen to it. They're always passively listening to music, and it sucks. This requires your full attention.
I've had my fill, my share of losing.
Oh.
But now, as tears subside, I find it all so amusing to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way. No, no, not me. I did it my way.
I just want to if any of you are familiar with the song, you know how special this last part is going to be. I'm getting chills. I'm getting really emotional listening to this. It's just something else. This is the reason why live performances are so much better than studio. You get the man as well as everything else. That raw human connection.
For what is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who
Oh, can you hear those brass parts?
the record shows.
The accompaniment are rising with him.
I took the blows and did it my
That power.
way. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you very much. You've been marvelous.
It's something else, man. You know, because this is the conclusion of my the SP Patrons review for BranSi0730 ZHANG of Frank Sinatra's My Way. It's one of my favorite tracks from Frank Sinatra. I know I didn't really talk about much else aside from what was going on with the video, but it's because I wanted to sort of have a moment to articulate my thoughts outside of it so that I could be very careful and clear about what I'm saying in this particular sort of end part. You know, when I listen to a song about someone who's reflecting on their life, it's so easy to understand what he's talking about. The delivery of the vocals is so clear, the words are coming through clearly. It kind of makes me feel really sad that a lot of the music I listen to nowadays, especially from musicians that are coming up often, there's just so much information and there's way less space than you'd need. You just don't get the full picture because you're just missing key components that are maybe oversaturated with vocals or whatever. Or like maybe people are just trying to be a little bit too clever with what you're supposed to be paying attention to it in a mix. With Frank, it was so easy to clear it. He carefully and steadily told the story, and he understood the journey that we were going on, not just from a thematic basis, but an emotional basis, a psychological one. We had a musician here who understands that he's lived a long life, he's grown stronger because of it, but also not because of just the good times, but also the bad times, the parts where he's taken on more than he could chew. And he's saying to the people that they know that he's been through that because Frank has shared his life with them. He's looking back on his legacy. And even the bad times, he can find humor in that and find amusing to find faith with that. Because he didn't do it in a shy way. He can't believe how much he's done. He's doing it, in his words, my way. And I think that this is a song that everyone can benefit from not only listening to, but considering not only from a musical standpoint, the quality of the performance, but also from a philosophical standpoint. Are you living your life your way? Are you doing what you need to do to be true and authentic to yourself? Is there something you could potentially do to make your life more what you want? And if you are not living the life you want, what are you doing, right? And I know it's not, I know that Frank, I don't know enough about Frank Sinatra to say for sure what his life was. I've heard a lot of stories about him, but I'm not going to mention them here. Because what is important is we have a man on stage who is one of the best singers of his generation. Has such a signature tone. He's not only a crooner, he's an adept storyteller. He has a fantastic texture and tone to his voice. He has a set vocal range where he can rise into that head voice and handle it, but he knows where he's comfortable. Even if I heard the occasional voice crack, which I think is just due to the fact he's becoming older, I also don't necessarily think that voice cracks are a bad thing, because voice cracks can often be a symbol of your emotional response to what you're doing. You know, you'll find musicians that maybe I'm experiencing this now. I'm struggling to kind of find words because I can like empathize and relate to what he's talking about, not from his perspective. He's lived a I could only dream of living a life like his, but you know, it makes you look back on your own life and kind of be like, I lived it my way, you know, but he tells you that in such a kind way, and it's so gentle and caring and wise sounding, because you know, even the worst of stuff, what can you do but just try and find some sort of humor in it? Like, you can't just ruminate on it forever. And I think that it's such a beautiful sentiment, and not only that, but his vocals are so, like, the vibrato that he had in that higher range there, especially with that last section, was absolutely magnificent, and it's just stellar. I don't know many, you know, singers in Frank Sinatra's side of the music tapestry that is the history of it all. I don't know many that can compare to him, and I think that stands for good reason. He's one of the best singers within the genre, and that's why he is so beloved and was so famous and was so successful. You know, performing in Madison Square Garden is no slim feat. You know, that you've got to really know what you're doing for that. You've got to really be able to pull him in for that, and he did. So the vocals are absolutely stellar. The story was phenomenal. The motif there was a complexity to that arrangement that was understated. Obviously, Frank Sinatra was the focal point, but if you look at some of those decisions with like debate, you know, like that is such a simple, memorable, melodic sort of concept there, so easy to sing along to. It belies the technical intricacies of the like harmonies and the arrangements and the melodies and the rhythms and stuff like that. You had two main sections really. You had the verse part, and then you had the bombastic sort of, it was quieter in the verses just to match the tone of the vocals, because back then the accompaniment would sit with the vocals, wouldn't have everything the same loudness. You had up and down and up, you had flows and ebbs, you know. It was because it was a journey. It wasn't just the same thing for 3 minutes and then you just go get a burger or something. It was an insight into the person's world, the singer's world. The brass sections that played their own sort of melodies, nice and up in the mid-highs. You had the drums as well, which were nice and somber for the most part, but they came in later on, they punched in, and I don't know if there was necessarily sidechaining. It was just a very phenomenal live mix there. You know, quarter-eighth notes there with occasional fills and crescendos there. The bass line played around a little bit. I like the sassiness of the bass line that maybe was a bit playful to match some of the little bits of humor that we had occasionally in there. I like the fact we danced around there. And the strings came in later on as well, which you know, I may or may not have mentioned, were just a lovely, charming mid-range accompaniment to it. And the piano was so subtle, but at the same time, it was just such a sweet bit of accompaniment for like an almost ballad. But of course, this track was 4 minutes long. You know, the track was 4 minutes long, and there's a lot of stuff to be said there. But the track also felt like 4 seconds. I think the power of the performance itself instrumentally, outside of the coloration and all that, is that the musicians had such a phenomenal chemistry with Frank Sinatra that they knew exactly when to really push it and to tape back. It was so tight. There was not a single musician in that accompaniment who wasn't there, didn't know what they were doing. You can't get that quality of performance from people who are not fully in tune with their instruments and with the people around them. And so, well done. I mean, like, honestly, lots of love for that, man. You couldn't half-ass it back in the days, you know? Well, you think Frank Sinatra's going to tolerate someone coming and doing a half-ass performance in their live show at Madison Square Garden? You can, yeah, I don't know. You might have a bit of a rough time back then, you know? It's also worth noting that performance-wise, you know, in 1974, the recording studio technology wasn't nearly as good as it is now. You know, for instance, you didn't have like live auto-tune or any stuff like that. You didn't have like drum sampling or anything like that. The people were playing all the acoustic instruments, you know. It was all real, man. There was no sort of like synthesizer or anything like that. It was a full orchestral sort of backing, like kind of a big band, kind of jazzy kind of vibe there. And it was just sensational. There was a lovely warmth from it, and I admire it, you know. It's just, I love the intricacies of like the extensions and the harmonies and stuff like that. He had some seventh chords in there alongside the little trills and bits of ornamentation with like the brass, you know, that kind of stuff there. We didn't just hold on to one note. We danced around, but for Frank to still be the focal point outside of that is testament not only to the arrangement and composition of the track, but also the production, the recording, mixing and mastering. was utterly sensational. I don't think you would need to change the whole thing. It sounded like it came from an LP player. It sounded like an old school vinyl that you'd hear at your granddad's place. It's unparalleled. I think it's one of the best live recordings I've heard. And when I say that, you know, the EQing was sensational, the stereo effects, you know, the lots of panning in the stereo field, you know, it was charming. It wasn't super duper sophisticated on that side, but that's because we didn't have the technology then that we do now. You know, people do all sorts of crazy shit with the production now. You couldn't really do that in 1974. And for it to still be just as meaningful, if not better, than a lot of the stuff is testament to maybe some of the humanity that we're missing today within our studio side of things, you know, trusting the musicians, trusting like, synthetic digital effects and tools and tricks over just getting the person to nail it and their recording in the first take, you know? Yeah, everything was glued nicely in the mix there, but there's also a nice dynamic range there. As I've said multiple times, I know that I'm repeating myself there, but just I can't get over the changes in perceived loudness between like the verses and those chorus parts. It was tremendous. The you know, again, there was very little effects work actually on most of the instruments, like maybe a little bit of reverb on the vocals outside of that. Maybe, you know, there's no repeaters or anything like that. The vocals were fantastic because of the quality performance, not because of the tricks you do on the studio side of things. And the rest of the instruments sounded relatively raw and organic. There might have been a little bit of limiting compression just to kind of boost it up and make sure you don't have anything peaking too much. But ultimately, you just had a really stellar live performance. And, you know, Frank knew it. Frank had the swagger to him, a bravado, but it was also a gentleman. Oh, he was a gentleman. You know, so respectful to the audience, thanking them for coming out, even though I'm sure if he, you know, like, that's part of why people loved him, is because he was a gentleman. And not only that, but he could sing. And he also had all these fantastic musical concepts behind him. And he had audio techs who knew what they were doing. But yeah, I'm really happy with this track. I'm thankful to be able to listen to it. I'm thankful to be able to watch Frank play it live. So thank you very much for watching this review of Frank Sinatra's My Way live at Madison Square Garden, New York City. Hopefully enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out some more of Frank Sinatra's music via his, you know, obviously I don't, wherever you can find it. Stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as need to help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.